Science is the complete and total understanding of the truth. Because of this, wise people throughout history have been afraid of the powerful word science. They worried that by using this word they might take on a role meant for the divine. Instead, they used the word gnosis, which means knowledge gained through intuition, rather than the word science, which refers to awareness. What does a person really know? Nothing, but they should not ignore anything. People know nothing, yet they are meant to learn everything. However, knowledge involves two parts, the person knowing and the thing being known. This idea of duality creates society and laws. It is also the essence of Gnosis. Duality represents unity that multiplies to create. This is why sacred symbols show Eve coming from Adam's side. Adam represents humanity and is linked to a deep symbolic meaning. When you add the threefold word Eve to the symbol for Adam, you get the name Jehovah, which is a powerful spiritual name in Kabbalah, Yod-He-Vav-He, that the high priest would pronounce as Jodheva. Complete unity within the threefold form, along with the four-part structure, is the key to all numbers, movements, and shapes. When a square spins around its center, it creates a circle that is the same size as itself. This concept is the quadrature of the circle, where the circular motion of the four equal angles revolves around a single point. Hermes said that what is above is equal to what is below. This idea of duality helps us understand unity, and the relationship between the two is the creative principle, which represents the ideal masculine energy. Once this principle is created, it forms a structure called the kates. When the vertical masculine energy combines with the horizontal structure, it creates the Gnostic stauros, or the philosophical cross used by Masons. The intersection of these two elements creates four, which when in motion, forms a circle with all its parts. In this context, Aleph represents man, Bet represents woman, 1 represents the principle, and 2 represents the verb. A stands for the active, and B stands for the passive. Unity is called Boaz, while duality is called Jachin. In Fushi's trigrams, unity is represented by Yang, and duality is represented by Yin. Boaz and Jachin are the names of the two symbolic columns that stood in front of the main door of Solomon's Kabbalistic temple. In Kabbalah, these columns represent all kinds of oppositions, whether natural, political, or religious, and illustrate the struggle between man and woman. According to nature, a woman must resist a man, while a man must either win her over or dominate her. The active principle seeks the passive principle, and the full seeks the empty. This is like a serpent chasing its own tail. It moves in a way that both escapes and pursues itself. Man created woman, and all of creation is like the partner of the first principle. When the main being became the creator, it raised a symbol that represents masculine energy, Yod or phallus. To give it a place in the pure light, the creator had to dig a pit, kates, of shadow that matched the size of its creative desire, which is linked to the radiant light. This is the mysterious language used by Kabbalists in the Talmud, and due to ignorance and negativity, it's hard to explain or simplify further. So what is creation? It is the structure of the creator's expression, the verb. What is the kates? It is the space for the masculine energy. What is the nature of the active principle? It is to reach outwards. What is the nature of the passive principle? It is to gather and nurture. What is man? He is the initiator who breaks new ground, plows and sows seeds. What is a woman? She is the teacher, the one who brings people together, nourishes and reaps the benefits. Men go to war, while women promote peace. Men may destroy to create something new, but women build to maintain what exists. Men represent change, while women represent harmony. Men are like the father of Cain, and women are like the mother of Abel. What is wisdom? It is the coming together of these two principles. It's about Abel's kindness guiding Cain's energy, with men following the gentle ideas of women. Wisdom is the wild energy of revolution being softened by the calmness of order and peace. It's pride being overcome by love, and science acknowledging the value of faith. When human knowledge becomes wise, it shows humility and respects the universal truth that is taught through love and kindness. This kind of understanding can be called Gnosis because it knows what it doesn't fully understand yet. Unity can only be shown through duality. The idea of unity already creates two. The unity of the larger universe is shown by the two opposing points of the two triangles. Human unity is formed by the left and the right. Early humans were androgynous, meaning they had both male and female characteristics. Most organs in the human body come in pairs, except for the nose, tongue, belly button, and the Kabbalistic yod. God, who is one in essence, has two essential qualities: necessity and freedom. The laws of supreme reason require the existence of God and govern freedom, which is always wise and reasonable. For light to be seen, God only needs to think of shadow. To show the truth, God made it possible for doubt to exist. Shadow highlights light, and the chance for error is necessary for us to understand truth in our lives. If Satan's shield did not stop Michael's lance, the angel's power would be lost, leading to great destruction. Thus, Satan is as necessary to Michael as a pedestal is to a statue, and Michael is as necessary to Satan as brakes are to a train. In the universal balance, we can only rely on what offers resistance. The universe is kept balanced by two forces, one that attracts and one that repels. These forces can be found in physics, philosophy, and religion, helping to create balance in physics, critique in philosophy, and gradual understanding in religion. Ancient cultures showed this mystery in stories like the battle between Eros and Anteros, Jacob and the angel, and the balanced mountain of gold represented by the serpent in India. It appears in symbols like the caduceus of Hermanubis, the cherubim of the ark, the two sphinxes on Osiris's chariot, and the two seraphim, one black and one white. The reality of this balance is shown through the concept of polarity and the law of attraction and repulsion. Some followers of Zoroaster misunderstood this duality by separating it without seeing the unity, trying to tear apart God. The duality within God only exists through a third element. If you think of the absolute as two, you must also consider three to understand the unity. That's why the material elements that relate to divine elements are thought of as four, explained by two, but ultimately exist as three. Revelation involves duality, meaning that all actions, verbs, come in pairs and imply two sides. The morals that come from this revelation are based on conflict, which is a result of duality. The spirit and physical forms attract and repel each other, similar to the relationship between ideas and their representations, or between truth and lies. Supreme reason requires a doctrine to convey knowledge to finite beings. This doctrine, which moves through ideas and forms, connects two worlds and has two meanings that can address either the spirit or the body, either separately or at the same time. In morality, there are also two forces, one that attacks and another that holds back or atones for actions. These forces are represented in the stories of Genesis by Cain and Abel. Abel holds moral superiority over Cain, which oppresses him. To free himself, Cain kills Abel, making himself a victim of his own shame. Cain couldn't let Abel live, and now Abel's blood haunts him. In the Gospel, Cain's role is taken by the prodigal son, who is forgiven by his father after returning home, having suffered greatly. In God, there is both mercy and justice. He rewards those who are just and shows mercy to sinners. In the soul of the world, which acts as a universal force, there are currents of love and anger. This energy flows through everything and is like a ray of sunlight that is held down by the weight of the atmosphere and a central force. This energy, known as the universal agent, was symbolized by the ancients as a snake biting its own tail. It represents the electromagnetic energy that is vital and bright, shown in ancient symbols like Isis's belt, which wraps around two poles in a knot of love, and the serpent biting its tail, symbolizing caution and time. Life and movement come from the strong tension between two opposing forces. The Master said it would please God if you were either completely cold or completely hot. In fact, a serious wrongdoer is often more alive than someone who is cowardly and indifferent. A wrongdoer's return to virtue is driven by the energy gained from their experiences. The woman destined to crush the serpent's head represents intelligence, which always rises above the blind forces at play. According to Kabbalists, she is the virgin of the sea, whose wet feet are licked by the fiery tongues of the infernal dragon, who then falls asleep in delight. These are the sacred mysteries of duality. However, there is one final mystery that should not be revealed. According to Hermes Trismegistus, this is because ordinary people are often foolish and would mix scientific knowledge with the immoral randomness of blind fate. He advises keeping the ignorant in check by instilling fear of the unknown. Christ also warned not to share valuable knowledge with those who cannot appreciate it, saying, "Do not cast your pearls before swine, or they will trample them and turn on you." The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, whose fruits lead to death, symbolizes this hidden secret of duality. If this secret were revealed, it would likely be misunderstood and could lead to the denial of free will, which is essential to moral life. Therefore, revealing this secret can cause harm, and while it is not the greatest magical mystery, the secret of duality leads to the understanding of the four-part structure, quaternary, and is connected to the three-part structure, ternary, which holds the key to the Sphinx's riddle. This understanding is crucial for saving life, atoning for unintentional wrongs, and securing the kingship of Oedipus. In the hieroglyphic Book of Hermes, also known as the Book of Thoth, duality is represented by a high priestess with Isis's horns, her head covered, holding an open book that she partially hides under her cloak. Alternatively, it is shown by the goddess Juno, who raises one hand to the sky and lowers the other to the earth, suggesting the unique dual doctrine that forms the foundation of all magic. This is the first wonderful symbol found in Hermes's emerald tablet. In the Revelation of St. John, there are two witnesses, or martyrs, known as Elijah and Enoch. Elijah is recognized as a man of faith, zeal, and miracles. Enoch, who is also called Hermes by the Egyptians and honored as Cadmus by the Phoenicians, is considered the creator of the sacred alphabet and the universal key to understanding spiritual teachings. He is known as the father of the Kabbalah and is said to have been taken up to heaven without dying, with the promise of returning in the end times. The same is said about St. John, who rediscovered and explained the symbols of Enoch's teachings in his Apocalypse. The expected return of St. John and Enoch at the end of times will bring a renewal of their teachings through the understanding of Kabbalistic keys that unlock the temple of unity and universal philosophy, knowledge that has long been hidden and reserved for a select few. We've also mentioned that the idea of unity expressed through duality leads to the concept of the ternary. Ultimately, this brings us to the important number that represents the fulfillment and perfect expression of unity. Equilibrium comes from the balance of two forces. If these forces are always equal, there is no movement, which means there is no life. Movement happens when one force is stronger than the other at different times. When one side of a balance scale is pushed, it causes the other side to move. This shows that opposites in nature interact with each other through their connections and similarities. Life consists of inhaling and exhaling. Creation involves placing a shadow to limit the light, creating a space for fullness, and having a passive principle that supports the active principle. All of nature has both male and female aspects, and the movement that causes life and death is a constant cycle of creation. God loves the emptiness He created so He can fill it. Science seeks to understand ignorance by bringing light to it. Strength supports weakness. Goodness shines brighter against apparent evil. Day pursues night endlessly, and love is both a desire and a fullness that overflows. Giving and receiving are connected, and movement is a continuous exchange. Understanding this exchange and the balance of forces is key to the principles of magical knowledge that lead to true human divinity. In science, we can see the different forms of universal movement through electricity and magnetism. Electrical devices show the connections and oppositions between certain materials. For example, the relationship between copper and zinc, or how metals work in a battery, are clear examples. Scientists can investigate and discover, while Kabbalists can help explain these scientific findings. The human body, like the Earth, follows a dual law. It attracts and radiates energy. It is influenced by a combined magnetism and affects the two powers of the soul, intellect and emotion, in opposite but balanced ways, reflecting the dual nature of both male and female within each person. The art of magnetism involves understanding and using this power. To control magnetic actions and give them a balanced dual force is a skill that many try to learn but have not yet mastered. It requires sharp intuition and precise internal movements to avoid confusing magnetic attraction with breathing. You also need to know the hidden structures of the body and the specific traits of the people you are working with. One of the biggest challenges in directing magnetism is the lack of sincerity or good intentions from the subjects. especially women. Women often enjoy acting and impressing others, but this can lead them to deceive themselves when they engage in dramatic behaviors. They can be seen as the real obstacles in magnetism. Those who are not trained in deep spiritual knowledge and who lack guidance from the Kabbalah will struggle to control this elusive force. To influence a woman, one must skillfully distract her and make her believe she is the one in control. This advice is especially useful for medical magnetizers, but can apply to relationships as well. A man can intentionally create two types of breath, one cold and one hot, and can project both active and passive energy. However, he must consciously practice this power. With the same hand movement, he can either send out or draw in energy, and he will feel alternating sensations of heat or cold in his hands. The person receiving this energy should feel the opposite sensation at the same time. The pentagram, or symbol of the microcosm, represents various magical mysteries, including the connection between the human limbs and the flow of energy in the body. When depicting a person in the pentagram, as seen in Agrippa's teachings, we note that the head is linked to the right foot in a masculine way and to the left foot in a feminine way. The right hand connects to both the left hand and foot, and the left hand connects back. This understanding is essential for performing magnetic passes and effectively influencing the entire body, connecting all parts through their natural relationships and sympathies. This knowledge is important for using the pentagram in rituals to summon spirits or call upon wandering forms in the astral light, commonly known as necromancy, which we will explain in the 5th chapter of this ritual. However, it's important to remember that every action creates a reaction. When we try to magnetize or magically influence others, we create a connection between them and ourselves that is opposite but similar. This can sometimes lead to us being controlled by them instead of the other way around, especially in matters of love. That's why it's crucial to protect yourself while you are attacking, to avoid receiving negative energy while projecting positive energy. The magical figure known as the androgen, as shown in the front of the ritual, has the words solve on its right arm and coagula on its left. This relates to the workers of the Second Temple, who held a sword in one hand and a trowel in the other. While you build, you must also defend your work by pushing away any threats, just as nature destroys while it creates. According to Dushanto's magical calendar, a person, or the initiate, is like nature's monkey, bound by a chain but constantly imitating the actions of its divine creator and her timeless example. The secret to ongoing movement and maintaining power is to alternate between opposing forces, like using heat after cold, softness after harshness, and love after anger. This is something flirtatious women understand instinctively when they lead their admirers through hope and fear, joy and sadness. Always acting in the same way can overload one side of a balance, which will eventually lead to complete loss of balance. Constant affection can lead to boredom and disgust, just as cold indifference or constant harshness can push people away and dampen feelings. In alchemy, a fire that burns at the same intensity all the time can break the container or spoil the raw material. Instead, you need to alternate the heat with cooler substances like lime or mineral fertilizers. Similarly, in magic, you should balance acts of anger or strictness with kindness and love. If a person always extends their will in the same way, they will become exhausted and eventually feel morally powerless. A mage should not spend all of their time in the laboratory with their equipment and potions. While the allure of occult power can be strong, it's important to confront it wisely, just as Ulysses did with Circe, and to be cautious with the temptations it offers. After performing a magical operation, it's essential to take a break for the same amount of time and engage in activities that are different from the magic just performed. Constantly trying to control and defeat nature puts one's reasoning and life at risk. Paracelsus was bold in this regard, but he balanced his efforts by using intelligence to counteract the effects of wine and by managing physical exhaustion through mental work. Although Paracelsus achieved great things, he also wore himself out quickly. Pain often prepares us for joy, and joy can be very close to pain. An inexperienced operator may find that their results are the opposite of what they intended because they fail to balance or alternate their actions. For example, if they try to enchant someone, they may end up unhappy and unhealthy. If they seek love, they may fall for someone who doesn't care about them. Or if they try to create gold, they might end up losing all their resources. Their suffering resembles that of Tantalus, where water always slips away when they try to drink it. The ancients included binary symbols in their magical practices to remind themselves of the importance of balance. They would create 2 altars and sacrifice 2 victims, one white and one black. The operator, whether male or female, would hold a sword in one hand and a wand in the other, with one foot in a shoe and the other bare. However, since 2 forces alone could lead to stillness and death, there should only be 1 or 3 participants in magical work. If a man and a woman were involved, the operator had to be a virgin, a hermaphrodite, or a child. You might wonder if these unusual rituals are random or just meant to complicate magical tasks. I would say that nothing in magic is arbitrary. Everything is governed by the universal teachings of Hermes, which emphasize the connections between the 3 worlds. Each symbol relates to a specific idea, and every action reflects a corresponding will and thought. The rituals are thus guided by the science of magic itself. Those who lack understanding may fall under mysterious influences, while the wise can use these influences to their advantage. When rituals are performed with precision and faith, they always produce results. All magical tools should come in pairs. You need 2 swords, 2 wands, 2 cups, 2 braziers, 2 pentacles, and 2 lamps. You should wear 2 layers of clothing in different colors, similar to what Catholic priests do. You should either have no metal on you or at least 2 metal items. Crowns made of bay leaves, rue, mugwort, or verbena should also be in pairs. During rituals, you keep one crown and burn the other, observing the sounds it makes and the shape of the smoke. These practices are important because during a magical operation, all the tools are charged with the operator's energy. The air takes on their sense, the fire is dedicated to their purpose, and the forces of nature seem to respond to them. The operator can see changes in the elements that reflect their thoughts. That's when you might see water bubble as if it's boiling on its own, fire flickering or going out, wreath leaves moving, magical wands stirring by themselves, and strange voices in the air. During such rituals, Julian saw the spirits of his once beloved gods, and was shocked by how weak and pale they appeared. I understand that Christianity has always disapproved of ceremonial magic, and strictly banned the ancient rites of summoning and sacrifice. Our goal isn't to revive these practices by revealing old mysteries after so long. Our experiments are simply scholarly research. We observe these phenomena to understand their causes, and we don't intend to bring back rituals that are long gone. Even the rational and divine faith of Israelite orthodoxy doesn't approve of ceremonial magic. For the tribe of Levi, practicing high magic was seen as taking power away from the priesthood, which is why all official religious practices have banned divination and miracle-making magic. Showing the natural in the marvelous and producing it at will would take away the unique miracles that each religion uses as proof of its truth. We should respect established religions while also making room for science. Thankfully, we are no longer in the days of the Inquisition, where people were burned for their beliefs. We don't execute scholars based on the words of a few fanatics or hysterical individuals. While we acknowledge that our studies may seem unusual, they are not nonsensical. Those who criticize us for calling ourselves magicians have nothing to fear from our example, and it's unlikely they will ever become sorcerers.